Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Dylan Hay. He is in business development and partnerships with a company called Leadfeeder. Dylan, how are you doing today?
James, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really looking forward to this one.
I'm excited to chat with you, Dylan. We have been going back and forth a lot on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I love the content that you're putting out. It's super actionable. You're sharing what you're learning. It seems like every single day. But before we get into talking about what we're going to be talking about today, which is driving new business specifically with Facebook, tell our listeners a little bit about what you and your team are up to at Leadfeeder.
Sure, yeah. So Leadfeeder is a business I joined around about 10 or 11 months ago now. Previous to this, I was working in the sales team at Hootsuite. So I've always had a big interest in the social media and social selling space. Leadfeeder is a sales intelligence platform that we're working on growing at the moment. We're going through some really explosive growth currently, and it's a really interesting place to be at the moment. So some great projects that I'm working on currently.
So Dylan, in talking about driving new business with Facebook, I first want to talk more at a high level about kind of where you see Facebook playing into kind of the B2B marketer or B2B salesperson's world. Because as we were talking offline, a lot of people look at Facebook as kind of that's where they go to post their cat pictures and awkward family photos and that kind of stuff. They don't really associate it with business. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we're going to be talking about how to drive business with Facebook, so you're an advocate for it. But how are you thinking about that right now?
Sure, yeah. So that's a really good question. And up until maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I was also one of those people who would never consider using Facebook as a means of like B2B or any kind of sales communication. So I'll just put that out there to start with. But I decided to start experimenting with that over the last 6 or 7 months. And I've seen some really good results coming from Facebook. And I get that people use Facebook and are used to Facebook as being this platform where, as you mentioned, it's like cat pictures, family photos, and all that kind of thing. But I found over the last few months that Facebook is often the fastest and easiest route to get into the kind of the mind and get to speak with your buyers, whether that be within the B2B space or elsewhere. I think typically as marketers, people will often look at Facebook and think, right, B2C, nothing else. And I definitely think that's a mistake, because you've got a Facebook account, I have a Facebook account, everyone I know has a Facebook account, right? Yeah. And personally for me, the fastest place that someone's going to get hold of me is Facebook. And this is something we touched on offline. Building up to this podcast, we were communicating via Facebook today. Most of our comms have come through Facebook Messenger, and we'll talk about that later on. But for me personally, if I receive an email, I may take 6-7 hours a day to respond to that, depending on who it's from. If I get a Facebook message, normally it comes through on my phone or it pops up on my computer, and I get back to that immediately. So That's one of the main reasons I've started experimenting a little bit more with Facebook most recently. Yeah. And I know we're going to dive into some of what you can do and why I've been doing that as well. So we can cover that later.
So with Facebook, you're talking about it from your personal profile, correct? Not a page that you have set up for Dylan Hay, the online persona. So this is your personal profile. And so this first thing that we're going to talk about is profile optimization. I feel like this gets talked about a lot in the world of LinkedIn. Talk to us a little bit about how you're thinking about it in terms of Facebook.
Sure. Yeah. So first thing you mentioned, this is looking at it from the perspective of a personal profile. So I do also have like a business page or a public figure page. And there's been a lot of talk about those recently. The reach that you'll receive from a public figure page is ridiculous at the moment. Your post will be seen by about 1% of the people that are actually following you. So the only reason I have a public figure page right now is to use for pushing Facebook ads out to audiences. That would be the only reason I have one of those pages. Where I've seen the biggest returns is from my personal profile. And as you say, with LinkedIn, we're always talking about how to optimize your profile, how to drive results from your profile. And with a Facebook personal profile, I have actually found it's been easier to optimize a Facebook profile than a LinkedIn profile. So I always say to people that you need to treat your Facebook profile like your own personal landing page. We've all been there. We've all seen someone post something in a Facebook group, seen someone having a conversation on Facebook that we don't know. We've clicked through to their profile and we've had a little stalk of their profile, had a look at what these people are all about. And too often, if you're going to use Facebook from a business perspective or a sales perspective, that means you need to be a bit more intelligent with how your profile is set up, right? So you don't want it to just be that cat picture that you come through to, or you don't want the person viewing your profile to know nothing about you. With optimizing your profile, there's a few really small, quick and easy actionable tips that I'll cover now that can just help speed this process up. So imagine someone comes through to your profile, they don't know who you are, and you want to give them as quickly as possible the brief information about either why they should connect with you or why they should speak to you. So the first thing that I always focus on is the cover image or the header image. So very similar to what we would do on LinkedIn. I always try to look for something that shows you and shows your authority. So if you're speaking at events, if you're at a demo booth at an exhibition, or if you're with someone with high sort of value within your industry, it's a really good idea to just have that high quality picture at the top of your header. Now, if you don't have those, if you don't do public speaking, if you're not into any of this stuff, it's not the end of the world. Maybe you can just get a header based on your location where you are, or with your web address in there, or something like that. But the first thing I always say is focus on that header image, very similar to what we would do on LinkedIn. And then the other thing with Facebook is you can list your job roles or your job titles. So I'd always put that in, because the first thing that people see when they come through to your Facebook is your header, your profile image, and then your job roles. And again, profile image, you can be flexible on this. Personally, I like to just use the same display picture for all of my social networks, just because it keeps a consistent brand. So if you look at me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, you'll see the same image. Some people like to change it up because they feel like they have slightly different personas on different platforms. But for me, I just like to keep it all the same. And then the best thing that I found recently is you have this short bio section on Facebook, which will appear under your profile image. And I've been using that just in 2 or 3 sentences to explain what problems I solve, or what I do, or how I can help people. So we'll talk about later on how you can target and find people to engage with, or find people to visit, to hopefully get them to come back and check you out. But when you get people viewing your profile, you want to make sure that bio quickly explains why they should connect with you, or what you do, just to give someone some really quick insight. And then the next thing that I would mention is, with Facebook, you have the option to choose up to 5 different featured images. So these are, when you're on your mobile phone and you look at someone's profile picture, you'll see there all the other stuff that we've just mentioned. And then directly underneath that, the first 5 pictures you see will be the featured images that person has selected. So back in the old days, they would have been the ones of you looking your best, or the ones with your family or your pets, or whatever. I've started experimenting recently with just including 1 image there, and 1 image only. And within that image is some text and a call to action. So I run my own Facebook group, and in the image, I actually explain what the Facebook group is, and I have an arrow pointing down saying, click here to join the group. And then under the image, you can also attach like a link or a URL. So then someone will see my profile, they'll see my pictures, they'll see my description, they'll see my name, and then they'll see the featured image, which has call to action built into it, asking people if they want to learn more about social media to come and join my Facebook group. And it gives them a link to click, and they come straight through. So trying to kind of wrap that up fairly quickly there, but there are sort of 4 or 5 really quick actionables that if you go away and spend 5 or 10 minutes on this, it can really make a difference when you're starting to get those people coming through to your profile.
Okay. So you alluded to the second one earlier, but it's groups. So when you're using Facebook from a B2B perspective, obviously, capitalizing on groups is a big way to see gains there. Engaging with like-minded groups where your buyers are hanging out. Can you talk to us about this one?
Yeah. So that's the exact term that I always use, is you want to join and engage in groups where your buyers are hanging out. So Facebook groups are incredible at the moment. The levels of engagement in Facebook groups absolutely destroy LinkedIn groups. I know LinkedIn are working on something, and I'm really hopeful that their groups are going to improve soon. But for the time being, Facebook groups are extremely engaged, and it's very easy to find groups based on people like within your niches or your target customers. So some really practical examples of this. Let's say, let's use Leadfeeder as an example. One of the pieces of technology we integrate with is Pipedrive, the CRM system. Now, most other SaaS tools, Pipedrive as an example, will have their own user group on Facebook. So if you were to search Pipedrive user group, you'll actually find a group of about 500 or 800 of the most engaged Pipedrive users that love the platform, have joined the group to talk all things Pipedrive. For us at Leadfeeder, that's a perfect place to start, right? Because we know that people that are using that tool will use our tool as well. So you can find groups like that, join the groups, engage in the groups. So don't just go in and try and pitch immediately. Add to conversations, share tips, share tricks. Some other examples of things you can do this with. Let's say you are focused on a specific city or region or industry. It's very easy to go and find, let's say I'm in London and I want to sell to marketing managers or people in marketing. I'm sure there's groups out there for London marketing managers or London startup groups. I know there's a huge London startup scene as well. It's very, very easy to find these groups very quickly and join them and engage in them. And the benefit of this is, it may sound like a lot of work, but it really isn't. You can spend 4 or 5 minutes a day just logging in once or twice and responding to comments or posting tips and tricks. But the benefits here, first of all, it's personal branding. So more people are going to be aware of who you are. And then the second thing is people are going to, if you start adding insightful information to these groups, the first thing someone is going to do is click on your profile. And then if we have the profile set up correctly, they're going to come through and it's almost like you've got them into your funnel then because you have already optimized your profile. You've got it set up to direct them to your company's website or to your group or to whichever direction you want to push them to. And it's very easy to then turn these conversations from groups to actual one-to-one conversations within Facebook Messenger. That's the way that I like to do things.
For several years now, I've been using a graphic design service called Kappa 99. You've probably heard me talk about them on the show before because it's one of the best investments we've ever made in our business. For just $399 a month, you can get unlimited graphic design. Seriously, it really is unlimited. You can have them design your infographics, case studies, and all of your blog posts and social media graphics. They even do t-shirt designs, email signatures, and book layouts. So head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and sign up for their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. You're going to love it. All right, let's get back to this interview. All right, so Dylan, we talked about profile optimization, we talked about groups, and then the third one we're going to talk about is starting your own group. This is something that I've watched you do because we were connected when you first started your group. Talk to us about the benefits that you've seen, some of the things that have worked best as you've got your own group off the ground.
Sure. Yeah. So I decided to kind of take the plunge and start my own Facebook group about 4 months ago now. And I've seen some really good growth there without sort of focusing on it too much. I mean, I'm just about to hit 1,000 members in those 4 months. And my group is called Sell More with Social Media. So for me, this is all about connecting with business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, and sharing tips and tricks with them to help sort of improve their growth and improve their businesses. So the best thing that I can recommend if you're going to launch your own group is you have to be committed. Like it's not easy. You have to be posting content regularly. At the start, I was posting often 2 or 3 times a day within the group. And all of that content was extremely focused on providing value to the readers and to the end users. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason I decided to start the group is my target buyers at Leadfeeder and every other company I've been at before are business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, people within marketing. So if I create a group that is going to provide those people with value, I don't have to pitch whatsoever. I don't have to sell anything in my group. I mean, I could do that further down the road if I really wanted to, but I don't need to because I'm building genuine relationships with my target market. It's been a really good way to ask for feedback as well. So let's say we're thinking about launching a new feature, or let's say personally I have some questions to ask around something that I'm going to test out. If I can just immediately ask my target market and they've already bought into me because they've seen the content I'm sharing in my group, it's amazing the kind of traction you can build just from having a small and engaged group, which has also led to a number of sales, both for me personally with the kind of stuff that I do outside of the full-time day job, but also for Leadfeeder itself. I've used it to connect with our buyers and provide them with extra tips and insights, which has then resulted in extra sales for us as well. So it's been a very effective tool for me, especially over the last few months.
I love it. I've started a couple different groups and have fallen into the trap of starting it and then just not being able to stay consistent with it. And so I've seen you continue to stay consistent with your group, and obviously you're seeing the results come, through that consistency, almost getting to 1,000 members in that short of a time. I think just being the person cultivating the community, there's something really powerful there. You don't, to your point, you don't have to sell. Everybody knows who Dylan is because they're all there because of Dylan.
Totally. This has been like a personal branding piece for me more than anything, but there's lots of successful B2B brands that have grown their own communities through Facebook groups as well. Pipedrive that I mentioned earlier was a perfect example. You don't have to focus on yourself and focus on your personal brand if that's not something that you're comfortable with. It's very easy to build a really engaged group of your users and your target market. Pipedrive do a fantastic example of this. At Leadfeeder, we have our own group too, and I know lots of other SaaS platforms and tools do this as well. So if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, right, I don't want to set up a Facebook group, I'm focused on B2B stuff, because I know that's something that people may think. Actually, the benefit is 100% there for everybody, whether you're representing a huge brand or whether you're just focusing on things for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think what Josh Factor did with the BAMF group, not saying that the only reason he was able to grow a 7-figure business in within a year was because of the group, but that certainly had a lot to do with it. Him spending, I think, 2 years building a community of like 15,000 people in the SaaS space, and then leveraging kind of leveraging that audience to then launch, his own agency. And even if he wasn't necessarily getting new business directly from the group, which I think he certainly has, a testament to the clients that he's able to pull off and get on his agency side to say, hey, look at the community that I've been able to build over here. We can do that same thing for you. So that's obviously, not everybody's end goal. Not everybody is in, starting an agency like Josh did, but I love telling that story to folks that is particularly with this conversation being how B2B can actually map to revenue, the size of business that Josh has built. They just hired, I think I saw they just built or hired their 26th employee, and he just started the agency less than a year ago. So I know that a huge part of it has been through his Facebook group. As we were talking offline, Dylan, you mentioned a couple tools that you use that have helped you grow with Facebook. Can you share those tools with us?
Sure. Yeah, totally. So the first thing I'll say is I completely agree with everything you've said about Josh. He's an incredible individual. And a lot of what I've learned about growing a Facebook group has actually come from being a member of Josh's group. So anyone listening to this that isn't already part of that group, I would recommend you check it out. So it's called BAMF, for Badass Marketers and Founders. So definitely check that out because you'll learn a lot there. In terms of tools that I'm using at the moment, there's a couple of small like Chrome extensions that I've been experimenting with recently. I didn't come up with these. They were recommended to me by other people, but they've been extremely useful. So the first one is called Facebook Search Chrome extension. So a really simple name. I'm sure we'll be able to put the link to the tool within these show notes or something like that. But essentially with Facebook Search, it's not as, let's say, flexible as other platforms. So you can only search for names or locations. It's quite tough to do any kind of Boolean searching or combined searching. This extension called Facebook Search Chrome extension will allow you to put in multiple different types of criteria to then find those people on Facebook. So let's say I'm targeting marketing managers in London who are within a certain age range. I can actually type that into the Facebook Search Chrome extension, hit go, and it will load up a page in Facebook Search for me of all of those people. So it's been a super effective way to actually filter through the noise on Facebook very easily to find the right kind of quality people to connect with. And then the second one I've been using recently, this is one that Josh actually created and shared within his group. I believe it was either him or his team that built this out. And it's called the Facebook Auto Connector extension. So anyone will know that if you want to add multiple people as friends on Facebook, it can be quite a time-consuming process, as with any platform.
Yeah.
Josh and his team built out this incredible extension where all you need to do is collect a list of the people that you want to connect with. So you just get their Facebook profile URLs. It's very simple. And you put them into the extension and you press go, and then you can leave it running in the background and it will go through and send them all friend requests for you. So just a super quick way to be a lot more efficient with your time, because that's something that we all need to be really focused on, is being more efficient and effective with our time. And you don't want to spend it all on Facebook. So if I can do a Facebook search, find all those marketing managers within London that I want to speak to, add them to the tool, press go, and it will send them all requests for me. It makes my job a lot more easier. And touching back to the first point, if our profile is optimized, hopefully that's then going to lead to some conversations or drive these targets of ours to the correct places.
And so are you solely depending then, Dylan, on them connecting with you, seeing your profile, and then them reaching out to you, or do you have a process for kind of nurturing those relationships once they've accepted the friendship request,
Sure.
but maybe they don't convert because of your profile? What are you doing there?
Good question. Yeah, so it depends on who I'm targeting with these requests and what the reason is for that. This is going to be just like how people use LinkedIn, right? If you want to use LinkedIn effectively, yes, you can send a lot of friend requests and hope that people come back and view your profiles and somehow convert further down the line. You can do that for your kind of low-hanging fruit, I guess, or your longer-term stuff. But if there's people that you specifically want to talk to, you have to provide insight and you have to add some value to this person's life. Like if someone's connecting with me, if I accept a friend request from someone that I don't know on Facebook, often we'll have mutual friends anyway, and that would be why I accept it. But if I accept a friend request from someone I don't know, but I can see they're in the same industry as me, and if they just pitch to me via Messenger immediately, that's going to turn me off completely. So I won't do that. Again, depending on sort of what position they're in and what the reason for connecting with them is, I'll either share some content of mine with them that I think could help them out. As we do on LinkedIn, I'll mention a piece of news that they're in recently or something that their company's been working on. You just have to think of this as relationship building. Like for me, Facebook, with it being such a personal network, I don't want to make myself look like an absolute idiot on Facebook, right? It's all about long-term relationship building for me. And that's why I think I'm seeing success with the platform, is because I'm not using it to rush to a sale or to pester anybody. I'm using it to genuinely try and build relationships with people that are in my industry and people that, yes, at some point I may sell to, but for now, I just want to add some value to them. And there's a lot to be learned from your customers and your target market as well.
I love it. Awesome, Dylan. I want to kind of close off by talking a bit about something that we alluded to at the top of the interview, which was the messaging component of Facebook and how you and I, a big part of how we've been communicating to set up this interview has been via Facebook. And a lot of the, you were confirming, the topic and, hey, does this topic sound good? Had you sent me an email, I likely wouldn't have gotten back to you for another, day or so, just because of how inundated I am with email. But because you sent it to me in Facebook Messenger, I just think it's telling that I was able to get back with you in just a couple of minutes on that platform as opposed to email. Where have you seen or where do you see that going? Do you think that Facebook Messenger will eventually be as crowded as email because of all the bots and stuff that are happening? Or do you see that being kind of white space for a while?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure at one point it will become crowded, but for the time being it isn't. So I really think everybody should maximize and make the most use out of that. I think the other key point to mention as well, James, is we did pretty much all of our communications ahead of this interview via Messenger. But I think another reason why that's gone so well is because you and I have built up a genuine kind of friendship and relationship over the last sort of 6 or 7 months. Like I would call you a friend of mine now, and I hope the feeling is reciprocal. And that's something that is the first thing that's really important. But I would say, like, I was actually looking at some statistics before we did this interview, and I read that there are more than 7 billion conversations using Facebook Messenger every day in 2017. And that number's only going to increase this year. So at the moment, whilst, yes, it's a bit of a blank space at the moment, it may get busier, but whilst it's not, it's a perfect place and a perfect time to be using Messenger. We touched on it earlier on, but for me personally, and for I know a lot of people listening to this show, if someone sends you a Facebook message, you more than likely have Facebook Messenger notifications on your phone, and that's probably going to be the first place you respond. Yeah. It's a lot more personal than an email. It's a lot easier to be personal in Messenger than email. You can send pictures, GIFs, whatever you want. And the other thing I'd say, like, we're seeing genuine results from this. So there's a perfect example of recently I did a training session with one of our potential customers. Actually, sorry, my colleague did a training session with one of our potential customers, someone that was trialing our tool. And his trial finished. My colleague couldn't get hold of him via email. I did a search and it turned out that this guy was actually a member of my Facebook group. Nice. So I sent him a message. I sent him a friend request and sent him a message on Messenger immediately. And like within 2 minutes, I had a response telling it, like, of him telling me exactly where they are in the buying process and what's happening next. So like it works and it's really useful. So whilst it's still at that kind of point, I would definitely recommend everybody integrates it a little bit more. And the only other thing I would say is, like, people may be a bit concerned about connecting with their prospects or people that they've spoken to on Facebook. But as I say with any social network, if you make it feel creepy and make it feel strange, then the other person's going to feel that way. But if you approach this as though it's completely normal and you do this all the time, often people don't have concerns about it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I've started to use it more and more to connect with, guests that we've had on the show, people that I meet at conferences. And because, not all the content that I post there is business related, but I think it's just a nice way to kind of round out like how you build relationships. I'm all about building relationships. And I think that Facebook is a really cool way to add depth to a friendship early on, because you're giving them a peek into what you do outside of the time that you're at work. So I'm totally on board with everything that you're talking about here, Dylan. If somebody is listening to this, they want to stay connected with you, they want to join your Facebook group, they want to connect with you on LinkedIn, however they want to stay connected with you and learn more about Leadfeeder, what are the best ways for them to go about doing that?
Sure. Yeah. So just all the usual social ways. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. If you just search for Dylan Hay, I'll be probably the only person that comes up, or definitely the first person you'll see. Facebook is where I'm posting, I guess, the most useful and insightful content within my group. So the group is called Sell More with Social Media. If you search for that, you should be able to find it fairly easily. And then Leadfeeder, just head to leadfeeder.com if you wanted to find out more about what we're working on and how we can help you out.
Awesome, Dylan. Well, thank you so much for your time today, man. This has been incredible. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, James. Thanks for the time.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.